When one hears the word BMW, usually cars and SUVs come to mind. And why not? It's one of the most recognizable automobile brands in the world, in the premium market. But when you say BMW Motorrad, the bike that usually comes to mind is the famous 1250 GS. It's one of the best-selling BMW vehicles here in the Philippines, whether you're talking about 2 wheels or 4. Now, the younger sibling of the 1250, which is the 850, which we have right here, is often overlooked. And I'm here to tell you that shouldn't be the case. I'm Gino Rufino, and this is Beyond the Ride. The 850 GS is powered by a water-cooled 853cc inline 2-cylinder engine that pumps out 90 horsepower and 86 Nm of torque, mated to a constant mesh 6-speed transmission with a multi-plate wet clutch. For the suspension, you get a 43mm upside-down telescopic fork up front with 230mm of travel. Over at the rear, you have a WAD strut with adjustable preload and rebound damping. Let's talk about the wheels and tires. You get wire spoke wheels, 21 up front, 17 at the rear, wrapped in Bridgestone street tires, which actually lean this variant to more of a long-distance street tour. More on that later on the ride. For the brakes up front, you get dual floating 305mm disc brakes. And at the rear, you get dual piston floating calipers. You get 23 liters, which is a huge bump from the 15 liters of the standard 850 GS. So you can really tell that this is more suited for long distances. Other features include this 6.5 TFT color display. You also get BMW Motorrad ABS, dynamic traction control, riding modes such as rain and road, LED headlights and LED indicators, adjustable windshield, 12-volt power outlet, and a USB socket. Now, we've done the 850 before, which was the rally version, which is a little bit more for off-roading. This is the adventure version, and you can tell right away by the size of the tank. It's massive. The fairings, it almost looks like the 1250 if you're just not too familiar. I mean, the size is almost the same, if you ask me. The front tires, you can see right here, of course, spoke wheels, but they're road-oriented. So they're not, you can't take it on slight back trails or back roads, but it's definitely more a tourer than something that you would take off-road. Now, of course, the thing that stands out the most, if you take a look at it from afar, that you know that it's not a 1250, is the engine. The 1250, the obvious boxer engine that some people love, some people hate. This is an 853cc parallel twin. Now, you can see right away that it starts off very wide at top, and it kind of slims down, it tapers down as it goes to the bottom. The 1250s, of course, with the boxer engine and down low, the center of gravity is quite low. This, when I look at it from just looking around at the bike, I could imagine it looks like it's going to be extremely top heavy. Now, the size of the tank and the fairings of the 850 Adventure gives you a lot of good wind protection. So if you're out on the highway, which a lot of people will be using this bike for, it has good protection right here, so you don't feel it in your body, you don't feel it too much in your head. You also have this adjustable windscreen up front, and then you have this protection in the sides as well. So it does give you very good wind protection for the type of bike that it is and the type of bike that it's going to be primarily used for. The curb weight of the bike is 244 kilograms, which is actually on the heavy side. And the seat height is a whopping 873 millimeters. However, this was made special for the Philippines. Well, not made special, but it does have the low seat and the low suspension so that it's a little bit more approachable for the Philippine market. And it is quite hot, if I may add. So that's the situation right there. Not so bad. And the weight, it is a little bit on the top heavy side, but of course, once you're moving, it shouldn't be a problem. Now let's do a quick sound test. you set off in the 850 GS, what you feel is really how comfortable it is. The seating position is great, the seat supports you well, the engine underneath you is actually quite smooth too. Power is pretty good, honestly. The parallel twin delivers when you need it, and the throttle response is decent as well. But it's not gonna knock your socks off. It's a bit more mellow than something hooligan like the Norden 901, which we did recently, and you can check out that video if you're interested. The fuel economy of this bike is really good, 22 kilometers per liter. Of course, that really does change depending on how you ride or if there's traffic or not. Now, speaking of traffic, it is a bit of a top-heavy bike and the front fairing is quite large, so filtering is a little bit of a struggle, but not impossible by any means. The heat isn't an issue in traffic as well. The fan blows off the hot air to the side of your shins and not directly on them. So a good pair of pants or maybe boots should mitigate most of the heat the bike lets out. Though a bit of a hassle in the city, the fairings make for great wind protection and weather protection out on the highway and open road. The windscreen covers a good amount of air, so the wind goes over your head, over your helmet, and the fairings block out most of the debris and water you may encounter. So the windscreen is really good. I mean, I can literally open up my visor on my helmet and not really feel the wind on my face too much. Now, some people may not like that because they want to feel a little bit more wind, but if you want to be more comfortable and have the protection of the wind, then that's fine. I mean, it's the wind protection is great. I personally would like to feel a little bit more of the elements when I'm on a motorcycle. You know, the wind protection definitely makes sense for this type of bike because you're really gonna use this bike more, exploring the country anyway. So you're gonna put a lot of miles on the bike on the highway. And of course, the wind protection that this bike offers is great because it lessens the fatigue and it keeps you fresh when you're riding for many hours and long distances. Like I've said over and over in this video, it makes for a fantastic long hauler. Sadly, there's no cruise control, and I personally don't really use cruise control too much, but Jack enjoys that feature a lot more than, well, at least than I do. And it's just a bit of a miss given that the more affordable CF Moto 800 MT has cruise control and this doesn't. We actually have a review on the 800 MT, which you can click on the link in the description or watch after this one. But that's actually a very good valued ADV. For me, the biggest miss of this bike, to be honest with you, is the lack of a quick shifter. Yes, it's something that you could install later on or just add to the bike, but I just prefer that when you buy a bike out of the showroom, it already has a quick shifter in it. That's a big deal for me, especially for something that's a tour like this. I think a quick shifter coming stock with a bike would have been a very nice feature to have. But other than that, it really rides almost flawlessly, and I can easily see how this can be an ideal ride for something like a Luzon loop or maybe even a Philippine loop. Any kind of a multi-day ride, since it's a GS, it can take on a bit of dirt as well, but it's not primarily for the dirt, right? The type of bike that this is really something that you would take on a trip to explore different parts of the country. You could put this bike on a Roro and explore Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao. It's one of those bikes that I would put some serious miles on. So in conclusion, well, the bike is perfect for putting on the miles on the expressways and exploring the Philippines. Doing the Philippine loop on this bike would be pretty good if you ask me. But if you decide to go off-road a little bit or some light trails, it can handle it as well. If you want to be a little bit more hardcore in the off-road, then go for the 850 Rally. That's more suitable for that. This is really more for touring. However, with a price tag of 995,000 Philippine pesos, you can find a liter bike among the Japanese Big Four. Now, at that price range, you also may want to consider the Norden 901, a bike that I absolutely love, Because, well, it's a great bike. It's made in the Philippines, but it's got similar features to this bike, and it's, well, the purpose of the bike, or the way people would use it, would be probably quite similar as they would be using this. However, if this BMW badge means a lot to you, then I'm not gonna hate on it, because I think the 850 GS Adventure is actually a great bike, great for the Philippines. I think it needs a little bit more flowers. It deserves a little bit more of its flowers given to the bike, because immediately when people think about the GS, it's always the 1250. It's always the biggest, the baddest adventure bike out there. But I actually think for the Philippines, the 850 GS Adventure is actually a bike that one should consider. For more information about this bike and other MCs out there, log on to www.motodeal.com.ph. This has been Gino Rufino. Hope you guys enjoyed going beyond the ride.